Good day. Welcome to another edition of my X review. As you all know, Elon Musk purchased Twitter in October of 2022, and since then he has opened up the platform to quite a lot of different shades of ideas and different opinions. Today, Twitter is now called X, is the number one platform, is the number one source of news for in 150 countries. As a geopolitical commentator, I take quite a lot of my news from my X feed, and in this my X reviews, I do a deep dive of all the news items I find in my news feed. If you're new to my channel, my name is Ebimo Amungo, and this is Ebimo Amungo's perspective on global affairs. If you have any comments regarding the views I expressed to this in this video, please put them in the comment section. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe and let's go. Let's take this deep dive for today. The first item I have on my news today, my news feed, is a story about tourism in China. I think it says, explore the breathtaking beauty of Maling River Grand Canyon in Guangzhou, southwest China, where thundering waterfalls, soaring cliffs, and lush greenery reveal nature's magic. Guangzhou is a very mountainous part of China. And not just that, because of these mountains, it has become the hotbed, the capital of bridges. China, we should know, has built over 1 million bridges, and they just built, I think, a new bridge there, and I suspect it's in Guangzhou. If I look very well, now it seems like it's the bridge at the back of this canyon there. Maybe not. Those who know China better will tell me that. But the Wanjiang bridge is now the tallest bridge, 625 meters above the ground, and it is the tallest bridge. The thing about China is that China is the second largest tourist market in the world. Many people don't even know that tourism contributes $1.3 trillion to their economy. And now when they build bridges, they add experiences in these bridges. So this new bridge that they just built, they have bungee diving, they have skydiving, they have what they call those play. They have some funny where they put glass on the bridge and people can look down and see. It's very dizzying for those who have problems with heights. So they create an experience, and this experience has meant that domestic tourism is very big in China. Besides that, China has opened up its country to quite a lot of the Western world. 57 countries can now visit China without a visa. You can stay in China for about 3 weeks without a visa, and these are all things that are stimulating tourism in China. A lot of people are now experiencing China, putting this out on TikTok, putting it on Instagram, and China is becoming more known and more open to the world, much to the chagrin of the Western media that used to demonize China. We have a story here. Our next story is about AIPAC. Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of President Trump's big supporters, MAGA base, and one of the things we've come to see about the AIPAC is the Israeli lobby that lobbies for the Israeli government. They are very influential. They are obviously the most powerful lobby in America today. They influence a lot of American Middle Eastern policy, and one of the things they've done is that almost all the members in Congress now must or do take money from AIPAC. And if you don't support the activities of Israel, they primary you out. She has become very critical of AIPAC recently, and they found a way to try and find her opponents that can primary her out. One of the things we also know is that AIPAC is. Let's hear what she's saying.
I'm America first. I will not apologize for that.
Came on this program, and you said that AIPAC should register as a foreign agent. We now have reporting that AIPAC is considering targeting you in an upcoming election. Now, they were successful in recent challenges against Democrats. AIPAC took out Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush, and admittedly, those are folks that had a lot going on. What do you think will be different about a challenge against you if AIPAC takes you on?
Well, I think we're in a whole different time, Matt, and I think Americans have very much become aware that Israel is a foreign government that has been meddling not only in campaigns and elections, but also meddling in government policy, government of the United States policy, as well as dictating what America does in foreign wars. And that has become a major problem for many Americans, especially young Americans, but not just young Americans.
Yes, so Marjorie Taylor Greene, we hear her name a lot these days. She is very, very vocal against Israel. She calls Israel the nuclear-armed Israel. She doesn't believe that America should be spending so much in support of Israel, especially since somehow they manipulate and send these American troops into war against Iraq, okay, and get them to bomb Libya, get them to bomb all these other Middle Eastern countries that Israel doesn't like. The Israeli lobby is very powerful. They are the only foreign lobby in America that is not registered under the Foreign Agents Act. They have been very bad now because of all the actions that is taking place in Israel. Spotlight has been put on them, and a lot of the MAGA base. Marjorie Taylor Greene is only one. Candace Owen also has a channel where she has over 4 million followers, and she uses that 4 million followers to talk against AIPAC. AIPAC is in a not so good place. We should understand that the banking, financial, IT, to a large extent, all those industries that we know has a vast influence of Jewish origin owners, and they are big contributors to the campaigns of all these people who want to go to Congress. And they would, one of the things I always ask you is that, do you support Israel? And if you're ambivalent about that, they'll primary you out. Guess, yeah, who is the host of this show, was supposed to be the Attorney General of America, the one now that Pam Bondi is running, and he was not so committed. The Israeli lobby didn't like him. They not only primarily him out, they made sure that he was sent out of Congress. So now I will just do a few stories about what's going on now regarding the flotilla that is going to Gaza. That flotilla has been stopped. Palestinians waiting for aid in Gaza and dodging bullets. Palestinians queue for aid packages. Then the shooting starts. This is what humanitarian access looks like. Incredible. These are the images that have undermined Israel to a very large extent. The attempts, because of no aid going into Palestine, no into Gaza, they cordoned off, they put the process of getting aid, and they forced the Palestinians into sections like this. And when the Palestinians try not to, don't go where the Israelis want them to go, they shoot at them. And these images have now been shown all over the world. These are the images that have really undermined and strengthened the argument that there's genocide going on in Gaza now. Aid is being used as a weapon, and we now see famine in Gaza. It's a very horrid thing. And this is why X is so powerful. You will never see this image in CNN. You will never see it in Fox News and all those other news items that continue to support the Israeli lobby and all that. But this has really undermined it. And it is for the reason that it became a very important part of the Israeli lobby's agenda to buy and purchase TikTok. And now we hear that Larry Ellison is trying to get TikTok. Images like this will soon not be on TikTok because they feel that this is the biggest assault on them and their ability to do things with impunity in Israel. These images are very powerful, and that's why they don't like Elon Musk for allowing these images to be shown. In this particular image, we don't see anybody being killed, but quite a lot too. We see people being killed. This is an Israeli an American contractor who saw this and also saw the killing of a child who had just come to tell him that all will be well. And this is Aguela. Aguela was very touched by this child that was shot by a sniper. So it's a very terrible thing that it's happening then, and the world is seeing it. And for 5 nights in a row, violent protests across Morocco, living cost and unemployment dubbed FIFA protests amid World Cup. Morocco is one of the most stable countries in Africa, so this is quite a surprise. I really don't have so much information about it, but we know that there's tensions, social tensions in these North African countries. We know what happened in Tunisia and how Tunisia, demonstrations like this sparked the Arab Spring. the Arab Spring that led to the turning overthrow of quite a lot of governments in the Middle East, especially that in Egypt, Mubarak's government, and the eventual spread of those demonstrations to Syria that led to the problems in Syria. So now we see this in Morocco here now. They complain that living standards are very high at a time that Morocco is going to be hosting the 2030 World Cup, and they feel that there's disparity between the expenses and the living standard. Meanwhile, we should understand Morocco is one of the richest countries in Africa. The economy is very good. They tend to have social stability. Their king, King Abdullah, is one of the richest men in Africa. Also, besides that, he's an entrepreneur. So this social discontent is quite a surprise. It may have other underhands with those people who play in geopolitics. This is the story now that is creating an increase in tension. French special forces have boarded and seized Russian oil tanker Pushpa, stating that the vessel is part of Russia's shadow fleet. Yeah, it's not just only that they claim that it is part of Russia's shadow fleet. Being Russian shadow fleet has not really bothered many countries. They would want to interdict and stop them, but it's that they're accusing, for it to stick now, they're accusing the country, this ship, of being the launching pad of some drones that flew over Danish airports in Denmark. So that is the excuse, and the French have gone to stop this ship. This ship, I think, is Benin registered. It has over 150 tons of Russian oil. But that would mean that this is the first attack, a very, very first attack or stoppage of Russian shadow fleet carrying Russian oil. The first attempts were done in the Baltic by Estonian and some Baltic state navies trying to go and stop some of those ships, but the Russians sent warships and planes after them, and they never did it again. Maybe that's why they allowed it to sail to France before they did this, because the French are nuclear armed, they are more powerful, and they are very far away from the Russian coast. And so they did this in the Mediterranean. But this is a new entry into the reality of what's going on now in the all attempts to stifle the economic well-being of Russia. Wow. 100% of Netflix employee donations are to the Democratic Party. This year is what we're talking about. The tech gurus in the world of this thing. This is a show of contributions to American parties. It was overwhelmingly large for the Democratic Party. They had a large part of the IT based. Most of the IT companies, we should know, have leanings towards Israel and the Democratic Party. Many of their founders. There's something which I should point out now. There's something particularly going on in America here that is changing the nature and face of American politics. If I go back to that news about where Taylor Green and Marjorie Taylor Green was talking about the Israeli lobby here now. Finance is fully in control of the supporters of Israel. The biggest company in America is BlackRock, and BlackRock, 10 trillion under management, is completely Jewish in its board. That kind of money weighs significantly, and they use it in supporting Jewish affiliated companies. Sam Altman just came from as being a Yankee to be one of the richest men in America now, just because of ChatGPT. And of course, he will be a contributor to that cause. This kind of weighing in on Palantir, on IT companies, on Salesforce, has made them to grow all up big in the geopolitical space, in the economic space in America, and they weigh in significantly now on the political shape, the shape of America's politics. This is the reality of it. We see BlackRock, we see a lot of the banking companies, we see a lot of the private equity firms. The concept of the private equity firms have even changed banking and finance completely. That will be another topic for another day. The global Samud vessel, Mienko, has successfully entered Palestine. Oh boy, this is nice. This is interesting news. They were allowed in. I don't know. It is now 20 kilometers away from the shores of the enclave, and currently the nearest vessel to the Gaza Strip. Quite a lot of the ships were turned back. Greta Thunberg was turned back, and she too A lot of them had already been arrested. So if this ship makes it to Gaza, that will be a miracle of some sort, because the Israelis are still capable of sinking that ship. The next story here now is about the war in Ukraine. Images like this you find mainly on Telegram channels, and now they are increasingly getting into X. So this is about the war going on in Ukraine here now. What we're seeing here now is some FAB attack by Russian FAB bombs, FAB 3005, 1505, FAB 500, carried by F-35, Su-34s and Su-35s, and they give the Russians a decided advantage in being able to project power and destroy strongholds. These are Soviet buildings, very strong, built with concrete, and it is very, very difficult to destroy. So, since the Russians have complete control to a large extent over the skies of Ukraine, they are able to do damage to these huge structures. These are images that the narrative regarding the success of Ukraine will not allow you to see in mainstream media. Hungary's Orbán is a pain to the European Union. He is totally at variance with what the European Union is doing regarding Ukraine and Russia, and this is he always has something to say, and he always weighs in on any policy movement by the European Union. Let's hear in what he's saying here. Hungary will continue to purchase Russian energy resources. Orbán cannot change geography. Hungary is landlocked country, so we have pipelines only. So we have to buy it from the Russians. Yes, he has been very recalcitrant. He says he will continue to buy Russian oil.
Policy, but I can't change geography. Hungary is a landlocked country, so we have pipelines only. So we have to buy it from the Russians. I can't change geography, you know. I try to be a strong man, but I can change policy, but I can't change geography. Hungary is a landlocked country, so we have pipelines only.
It's the kind of common sense you don't find in Europe anymore these days. There's a lot of self-harm, especially to the German economy, who completely who grew to a large extent as a big manufacturing powerhouse on the strength of cheap Russian oil, but they have cut themselves off Russian oil, and now they are buying more expensive oil from other countries. Their country is not competitive, but not Orbán. Orbán and the Slovak leader have said they are going to continue to buy Russian oil. Yesterday was a very important day in China, October 1st. This was the day that Mao Zedong proclaimed the Republic of China. And this video here, obviously, is one of that day. It says, on this day in 1949, out of the ashes of civil war, a war of annihilation by Japan and domination by other foreign countries, communist revolutionary Mao Zedong officially declares the People's Republic of China. At that time, the life expectancy in 1949 in China was 36 years. By 1972, it was 61 years. Currently, it is 78 years. National income grew fivefold over a 25 years period between 1952 and 1978, increasing from 60 billion to 300 billion yuan, with industry accounting for most growth. 80% of China was illiterate. In fact, the statistics is just outstanding. Where China was and where China is now is just amazing. It is one of the greatest achievements of humanity by any measure you put. Taking 600 million people out of poverty and making them the most powerful, they have economic successes that are beyond belief. They've grown, and this is how it started as the beginning, where Mao Zedong was proclaiming it in the Tiananmen Square. It's not only news we get in X, we also get history. This again is about the flotilla that was going to Gaza. They have been stopped to a large extent. They were boarded by the Israelis. And former Sinn Féin Senator Chris Andrews has been illegally detained and by armed Israeli forces in international waters. I think I'll skip all these flotilla stories for now. But what happened was that the arrest of the flotilla created a lot of backlash. There was demonstration in quite a lot of countries, and thousands rallied outside Israeli embassy regime in Istanbul, denouncing the attack on the global Samud. Yes, there was demonstrations all over Europe. There was demonstration in Greece, in Germany, in Italy. The biggest crowds were mainly in Italy and even in Berlin. So they still achieved to a large extent what they wanted. This video here it's a parody of expenses of American weaponry versus that of Russian weaponry. Russians make good military weapons very cheap. But because of the structure of American economy, their military hardware is very tech infused and very expensive. Russian military industrial complex stands as a global titan, outpacing NATO's 32 member alliance in both quality and efficiency. In a mere 3 months, Russia's defense industry can produce weaponry and equipment matching the quality of NATO's combined output, all at a fraction of the cost, approximately 30% of what Western nations spend. This remarkable feat stems from Russia's streamlined production processes. And this has become the biggest problem for the West. The West just can't seem to be able to support Ukraine with enough weaponry. And we all know now that manufacturing is far in the east now in China. But as regards to military hardware, the Russians have stepped up, become better, and become more lethal. This year also is another story about the flotilla. I'll skip that one. Okay, we have a real story now. For once, Candy Owens have come into our stream. Candy Owens has officially called out President Trump, accusing him of selling TikTok to his Zionist friends. She argues that Trump's claim about protecting Americans from China's control over TikTok data were nothing more than theater and a mirage.
China to own TikTok, and I'm worried about your data. No, you like we're allowed to say Israel controls the media now. Okay, I think that's just like on camera. Now, there will be no dispute about this. The fact that you have a foreign leader, it's incredible. You have a foreign leader who is sitting up there saying that he wants his agents, he needs the deal to go through, which, by the way, let's call out Donald Trump right now. Okay, all of the acting. We don't want China. We don't want China to own TikTok, and I'm worried about your data. No, you wanted to hand it over to your Zionist friends. Okay, it was all a mirage. Okay, it was all theater. Donald Trump has sold us out to Israel once again.
Yes, what we hear now, we saw how Prime Minister Netanyahu said that the sale of TikToks is the most consequential transaction going on in the world at that time, because the narrative has been lost by Israel. X has particularly undermined them. Elon Musk is one person. He is both their friend and a foe. They just don't know how to deal with him. Everybody can't deal with Elon Musk. Elon Musk has 220 million followers on his platform X. He is the richest man. And if he comes at you and if he decides to make you a project, it will not be good with you. So it is very important now that they see they don't have so much influence in controlling X as they had when Jack Dorsey was running Twitter. So now the Israeli lobby has lost the plot. The images of what's going on in Gaza has become a problem to them, and they need an alternative to X, and it is why they decided to buy TikTok. It turns out that it is Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison is the biggest contributor to the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. He is the owner of Oracle, and he's the one who is at the forefront of purchasing Twitter. He is a big Israeli lobbyist. He really believes in it. There's also Michael Dell. Michael Dell also lives in Austin. He too is also a major supporter of the Israeli government, and they are the ones who are in the front of buying Twitter from the Chinese. So it obviously is true what she is saying. I support her completely in that regard. For Trump, striking of Belgorod. Okay, this is the talk about Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, and obviously this is a commentator. He says, for Trump, striking off Belgorod is not flashy. He thinks on a large scale. It's a different matter to have blackouts in Moscow. That's why they are now talking about Tomahawks. They are preparing us for this strike. Political scientist Mikhail Shiatelman. Russia is full of a lot of analysts.
Вот это сейчас можно сделать в этой войне, это ударить по Москве и Санкт-Петербургу. Поэтому у него такие желания, он про это говорил с Зеленским об этом, и поэтому он хочет поставить
Russia is full of a lot of,
ударить по
and a lot of
Санкт-Петербургу,
opinion regarding this war going on in Ukraine.
Выключить Белгород это не
all
я.
over
Вот Трамп все время
Russia.
мыслит масштабно.
Some people feel
Он
that
никогда не
the
говорит там,
Russian president
я сейчас
Putin is
построю
very
казино
dull.
где-нибудь
He's not. He should be
штате
more
Юта,
strong-handed
да,
and he should
Солт-Лейк-Сити.
use
Не-не-не, я
rationing
в
and
Нью-Йорке
use all the
построю.
weapon systems. In
Я в
fact, some have even
Нью-Йорке,
said
на
they should
Флориде,
use
то есть
tactical
там, где все это
weapons,
будет гром.
tactical nuclear weapons against Ukraine
Да,
and bring
самое
some
дорогое здание на
sensibilities
Манхэттене. И
to
он
the
понимает точно
Europeans,
так же, что и
to
бить надо
the
не
fact that
по,
Russia is the largest
извините, пусть
holder
даже
of
военному
military
объекту
arsenals.
с
Besides that,
ядерной
Russia has
обороной
the
там
best
где-нибудь по
missile
штабу в
systems, as we have
Ростове,
seen.
да.
Second, and
Генеральный
hypersonic
штаб
missiles.
российской
So
армии,
they are
Москва,
not too happy
Кремль.
with Putin in that regard, that he's being soft. This is one of the arguments. I think I may skip this. Armed forces of Ukraine are recruiting not just prisoners, but mentally ill psychopaths. Ukraine has problems with recruitment, conscription, so they have put in some prisoners, but this may just be a propaganda story where they targeted one man who was very loose with his voice, with his opinions. I like blood. I armed people for pleasure. I slit their throats. I'm going to war so that I can be released, to be satiated with blood completely. The infusion of prisoners into the army was started by the Russians when Yevgeny Prigozhin was able to convince the Russians to allow prisoners to join his Wagner group in their fight against occupy Bakhmut. Now that the Ukrainians are under pressure, they too have done the same thing. But this one here now, this is a particularly harrowing kind of person. He says he wants to join, I don't know if he has joined. This is a montage of all the demonstrations going on all across Europe about the oh, it's in Arabic, so we can't see all the cities. My Arabic is not so good for me to call the cities out. Oh, Belgium, oh, Turkey, Belgium, Greece. Oh, they are flashing between Arabic and English. And these are all the demonstrations that was sparked all over Italy, Spain, Germany, Turkey. So we see there has been quite a lot of response regarding what. So in that regard, Greta Thunberg has really succeeded in bringing world attention to it. Although the world attention has been increasing long because of the news that people get on TikTok and on X. We have here now breaking this is the old one, same Samud. You see, they flooded the whole of TikTok with this news, and this is the pain to the Israelis. To the credit of the Israelis, they didn't harm her this time around. The last time they boarded the minivan, they destroyed and killed 5 people, but they are very conscious of what will happen to Greta Thunberg. I think Greta Thunberg is a personality they will probably not want to harm. There are quite a lot of other activists too, quite a lot. And even though they are there, it is Greta Thunberg that we all read of more. Strike by Geran 2 on a moving target kilometers into Ukraine. This is what we just talked about, Russian technology. Russian technology is improving, and the Geran 2 now has been put with night vision cameras, and they can identify and track down trains that are supplying military hardware, Ukrainian trains deep inside Ukraine. I think this happened in Dnipropetrovsk. I may be wrong. Ukrainian and Russian viewers can correct me on that. Quite rare, and shows advancement in Geran system. If 100 of the 400 launched during operations could be controlled this deep, well, that's a huge game changer. Ukraine's logistics is out of the window. We've seen they've started to use the Geran to do quite a lot of damage. They attack train stations and power stations. The power stations are where they use a lot of electric power trains, but not just that, they're attacking the power stations and the substations, they're also attacking the trains now using this Geran 2. The Geran 2 has become a game changer, a much, much cheaper version of any missile system and Iskander, and we saw in one of my videos, we saw how they were producing this at an industrial scale that boggles the mind. So the Geran 2, Shahid 136 from Iran has been iterated to Geran 2, and now it even has a jet-powered one called Geran 3. The Russians are very innovative, and Anybody who doubts that is finding out the hard way. The United States is providing Ukraine with real-time intelligence data. That is true. This is nothing new. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said in response to Wall Street Journal report saying that President Trump's approved the sharing of targeting data with Ukraine first. Peskov also warned Russia will respond appropriately to Washington's potential decision to supply Kyiv with Tomahawk missiles. It is the fact that the Russians keep their actions close to the chest. But the last time that ATACMS were used to attack Crimea and led to the death of 4 civilians, it was Lloyd Austin, the then Secretary of Defense, broke a long-term silence and called out to Shoigu. Then I think Shoigu was the Minister of Defense in Russia, and made peace. American systems are not supposed to be allowed, especially since President Trump has said that he is a president of peace and he wants peace between the Russians and the Ukrainians. My conjecture is that he's not going to sell them that Tomahawk missile. It won't happen. He just leads them down that path because they want to be led down that path. This is a proof of what I just said regarding Geran 2 and Geran 3 attacks on train stations. It's very, very, very distressing if you're a Ukrainian. The Ukrainians have been very happy, showing us images of refineries burning within Russia, showing us the oil depots and power station in Belgorod. But the level and scale and destructiveness of the Russian weaponry and system, their ability to reach deep all across. One of the times we forget that the Russians have a show of power sometimes. When they launch their 800 drones, they launch it so comprehensively across several cities in Ukraine that it just doesn't bode well for anybody who is thinking about coming into fisticuff with the Russians. And maybe that is why the Russians are the Europeans are now talking about a drone wall that will protect them way from Russian possible drone attacks. Slovakia, I think I will run this last few stories here now, and I will run this last few stories and we'll call it a day for today. But this also is another very stubborn. What is it saying?
Došiel som medzi normálnych a dobrých ľudí. Opakujem, normálnych a dobrých ľudí. Keď si predstavím, s akou nenávisťou, s akou mierou posadnosti,
although Slovakia is a small country, it can be a great example for Europe in defending the values and economic interests. Fiso is one who almost paid with his life because of his views about Ukraine. One Slovakian went and shot him. Obviously in this particular meeting here now, the two renegades of the European Ukraine project are together. Fiso, as always, and Viktor Orban have become the gadfly to the European Union intentions to, one, smuggle Ukraine into the European Union, and then two, continue or go all ahead, full out to fight a war with Russia. They have been very, very adamant in opposing pro-Ukrainian policies that undermine their own interest, and then they've also insisted that better relations with Russia is good for Europe. They are totally different and they are being punished also. He almost lost his life, but he's back on stage and all. We'll go to Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is one of those ramming the Israeli lobby in America by their criticisms. I don't know this. Wow. In June, during the brief Iran bombing and conflict, Israeli IDF officers at the Pentagon were busting into meetings, backing orders, and making demands. How can a foreign military officer barge into military headquarters, meetings, and start demanding? Why are we taking orders from a weaker government? Some people don't believe Israel is the weaker government. They actually believe that Israel comes first
foreign
before
military
America.
officers in the
And
Pentagon.
this is
To
that
be
kind of
clear,
thinking that Tucker
there are
Carlson
NATO
has
programs
launched
talking about
against.
clearly targeted on purpose by a country we're supporting, Israel. And it's somehow shameful to say that? Why? Why is it shameful to say that? Who knows why it's shameful to say that, but it shouldn't be. And until we have some self-respect, not anger or hate, but just dignity, it will continue. In June, for example, during the 12-day war, such as it was with Iran, the U.S. and Israel versus Iran, bombing on all sides, during that short conflict, IDF officers in the Pentagon, foreign military officers in the Pentagon, and by the way, they're not the only foreign military officers in the Pentagon, to be clear. There are NATO officers, they're from other countries, British, but there are a bunch of Israeli Defense Force officers in the Pentagon that week. And during that week, ask anyone who works at the Pentagon, they enraged American Pentagon staff by just barging into meetings, giving orders, making demands, and nobody did anything about it. How can a foreign military
This
officer...
is the biggest thing undermining Israel. Israel has enjoyed unparalleled support from the Christian evangelicals in America. They constitute the whole leaning that is called the conservative part of America. They have supported Israel wholeheartedly. But I think Israel has pushed their hand too far. And then suddenly, a lot of people are now beginning to remember that they are Americans. The founding of America did not have an Israel at that time. So now these people are beginning to talk and speak up. And one of the biggest critics of Israel is a Jew. His name is Jeffrey Sachs. And he too goes on every single podcast possible to condemn Netanyahu's actions. And this is it. Why is Congress so cowed by Israel? Jeffrey Sachs has some thoughts. Okay, let's hear. Okay.
Netanyahu, who is a
Let me start that
absolutely
again.
50 years. And if you ask me, am I really sure why Netanyahu, who is a absolutely disgusting warmonger, who has dragged us into terrible wars, who is committing massive war crimes, why he gets 57 standing ovations in the U.S. Congress. If you ask me in my heart, do I really understand that? Is it the AIPAC lobby, the Israel lobby? Well, partly.
And that is to show you the wide various shades of voices you get in X. It is a remarkable reality that we live in now. It's a tool that is available for anybody who wants to be informed, because oftentimes it's just been what we get from CNN. It's just been what we get from BBC, CNN, and all these other media organizations usually have some agendas they are pursuing. Those agendas harm states, they harm the truth, they harm the reality as we know it. But one thing that X does is that BBC will come and humbly place its own story there and get responses from all over the world. And then the country or the people that their news is affecting will also put out their own story on X. It's a marketplace as the world has never seen before. And we must thank Elon Musk for creating it. We now see how this marketplace is now being sought after by so many people, but because Elon bought it by himself, made sure that he didn't fall into the hands of financiers in stock in Wall Street. He has full control of it, and since he believes in the First Amendment, America first, and he also believes in freedom of speech, he has created this reality that the whole world must be very grateful for. We know the Russians have been sanctioned, but their ROT is on X. The organizations that many people don't want to hear about, Ukrainians had full access to selling out their own news, but on X, everybody has their own news. And Ukraine's influence stops short. They cannot dare talk to Elon Musk. After all, They are surviving by the very fact that Elon Musk gave them Starlink. That is why they are even still in the game. This is where I'll end my video for today. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. If you have any opinions regarding the views I've expressed in this video, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. Until I see you in my next video. Goodbye.